Today we stand in the middle of what can only be described as a theatrical rerun. Donald Trump's tariff wars revived for the 2025 audience, and once again commanding the global stage with all the finesse of a bull in a china shop, and having imposed the punitive tariffs of up to 145% on Chinese imports. President Trump has claimed this reciprocal regime as an act of righteous economic retribution. Yet, in characteristically erratic twist, he's also announced the 90-day pause, in which most countries, bar China, will see a cap at 10%. And the result, markets soar, markets plunge, allies scramble. These are not tariffs in a conventional sense. Trump calls them reciprocal levies. But they're neither proportional nor stable, and China alone now faces a 145% surcharge and has responded in similar fashion, while traditional allies like the UK, Japan and EU are not spared, albeit at the 10% level, and all this now suppressed for 90 days. Kevin Hassett, Trump's advisor, made it clear only extraordinary deals will lift the tariff floor. Starmer has responded with diplomatic restraint, refusing retaliation, but this has offered little practical advantage. As the FTSE 100 rose in cautious optimism, Wall Street plunged, proof perhaps that uncertainty is the true currency of Trumpian economics. And China, unsurprisingly, has not taken kindly to economic strangulation. It has retaliated with 84% tariffs on US goods, further isolating both economies. And a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson declared that kowtowing is not an option, while China's commerce ministry kept the door to negotiation ajar, an icy détente dressed in diplomatic silk. In contrast, the European Union has suspended its own countermeasures for 90 days, citing a need to give negotiations a chance. Ursula von der Leyen has played the adult in the room, advocating for a zero-for-zero tariff deal, despite being largely ignored by Washington. Caught in the middle is the UK, tariffed by its closest ally, yet unwilling to retaliate. Britain finds itself in the invidious position of paying the price of alliance without reaping the benefits, and Starmer's outreach to Japan suggests a pivot to multilateral diplomacy, an attempt to avoid becoming roadkill in a Sino-American pileup. Rachel Reeves now faces the inevitable risk of travelling to Washington with cap in hand, hoping to carve out an extraordinary deal with a president who says he could sign every trade agreement in one day if I wanted to, but so far all Trump has delivered is volatility dressed up as strategy. Lifting the table up and turning all the contents onto the floor is not the act of a grown-up, it's the act of a child in a temper tantrum. And then there's Russia, and curiously exempt from the tariff list. Despite years of sanctions and an ongoing war in Ukraine, officially the White House says there's no point in taxing Moscow because trade levels are already negligible. But that excuse unravels fast when you consider that Lesotho exports more to the US than Russia and yet faces a 50% tariff. So why the omission? Some suggest it's a strategic olive branch. Others see it as a sly nod to Vladimir Putin during back-channel talks. And Russia, for its part, is playing both bemused observer and opportunistic tactician. Kirill Dmitriev, a man once better known for vaccine diplomacy and Riyadh summits, is suddenly back in Washington, as Moscow's unofficial economic envoy, and sanctions were even suspended so that he could visit. That's not trade policy, it's theatre. And it's precisely the kind Russia can exploit. And yet, even as Moscow avoids the tariff lash, it cannot avoid the fallout. Falling oil prices, slowing Chinese demand and a strengthening ruble have created a perfect storm. With the Urals benchmark falling below $54 per barrel, well under Russia's budget forecast, Putin now faces a dilemma: raise taxes, cut defense, or slash social spending. None are politically attractive in a wartime economy. So this isn't merely a trade war. It's a redrawing of economic alliances. China seeks Asian, the EU dabbles in electric vehicle diplomacy, and Russia becomes ever more Beijing's junior partner. America, meanwhile, is pursuing an agendum of economic nationalism, with Trump declaring that reindustrialization will make the world a beautiful place, ignoring the rising cost of living, the stock market chaos, the supply chain uncertainty. And the WTO, meanwhile, watches helplessly as the rules it once enshrined are flouted by the very country that helped write them. So what does all this mean? It means global economic leadership is up for grabs. Trump's 90-day pause is not a peace offering, it's a strategic delay, a high-stakes bluff. China knows it, the EU suspects it, and Russia, ever the cynical opportunist, watches from the sidelines, bemused, bruised, but calculating. In this great reshuffle of trade, only one certainty remains. In Trump's world, everyone must pay a tariff, except, apparently, the bear in the centre. I'm afraid I concluded long ago that Trump is mad. It's going to take a lot to prove that my conclusion is wrong. For me, anyway. I mean, you may think Trump is the sanest person in the room. Well, he may be, but that doesn't say a lot, does it?